We've been in the US now for 3 weeks on this trip. We started off at the AICPA conference in Advanced Personal Financial Planning Conference in Las Vegas, and which is a great conference. And one of the sessions I went to there was a compliance/fiduciary session where the panelists were Tom Giacchetti, who is a leading financial services lawyer here from Stark & Stark, and Blaine Aiken, who is the CEO of FI360, which is a business that specialises around the fiduciary standard with certification systems, processes, etc. And one of the really interesting things that came out of that discussion was that there's now a growing recognition here that advisors, whether they be fiduciary or not, are actually must take responsibility for the tools that they use. They can't use as an excuse for bad advice that I was using a tool and it was a bad tool. They're responsible for the tools. Now that's certainly already the case in the UK, that's clear, but it's coming through here too. And what that means is that people are going to have to start doing proper due diligence on the tools that they use. Now, our interest obviously is in risk tolerance, and risk tolerance tools sit really at the heart of the advising process. If you get risk tolerance wrong, you're likely to finish up in considerable trouble. And yet there isn't any consistency or clear path around risk tolerance tools. The starting point is actually testing risk tolerance itself. And any test of any sort has to be valid and reliable. And a valid test is testing what you think it's testing, and a reliable test tests consistently with known accuracy. The validity is important. A lot of the sort of industry standard questionnaires fall down simply because they're not testing risk tolerance. They've got off the topic questions in them, and they finish up measuring risk perception, not risk tolerance. So it needs to be clear that you're actually trying to measure the right thing. And the best definition of risk tolerance that we know of is the one that comes out of the ISO Personal Financial Planning Standard 22222, 5 twos, which is that risk tolerance is the extent to which an individual is willing to risk experiencing a less favourable outcome in the pursuit of a more favourable outcome. It's very general, but it does capture it captures the fact that risk experiencing down the track an unfavourable outcome, because most of the advice is about something you do today where the consequences aren't going to be known for some time. So you need to be clear that your risk tolerance test is actually measuring that, and it's a psychological trait, a relatively enduring way one individual differs from another. So the starting point is the methodology actually that's being used, is it actually an accepted scientific measurement system for something such as risk tolerance? So the first question is the general methodology. The second question is, how does this particular test fit in with that methodology? The third question is, how well does the test actually work? Then you might be interested in looking at who the test developers were, how widespread is the use of the test, what have been user experiences. But as an advisor, you do need to realise that when you're talking to people like us, we don't have a legal duty of care to you. So it's buyer beware. Don't just take our word for things, do your homework. Look for third-party endorsement. Get somebody, if there's some really technical black box stuff involved in it, find somebody who understands that, or look to the supplier, like ourselves, to provide evidence of credible third parties saying this is an appropriate way to deal with this issue. In my sort of nearly 20 years as a financial planner, very early on, our firm got caught as a result of not having done due diligence. It was on an investment product, but we didn't do proper due diligence. And it cost our clients, or would have cost our clients, a reasonable amount of money. We simply forked out ourselves. It was a very expensive lesson. Fortunately, we were able to cope with the downside financially for us, but it made us very careful going forward. And we always did very thorough due diligence, because if you don't, you're going to find yourself out on a limb one day and the limb's going to break and you're then in real trouble. So, due diligence.